I don't want to just do well. I want like everyone around me to know that I'm doing better than them, like whenever possible. Just like,
I understand.
welcome back, De Niro Nation, to Our Hero De Niro, the only podcast that's watching and recapping Robert De Niro's entire filmography in random order. I'm Mike, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Mike.
Hello.
And today we're talking about the 1988 American action comedy film Midnight Run, directed by Martin Brest, from a screenplay by George Gallo. Gallo? Hard to say, probably Gallo. This film stars some heavy hitters of 80s cinema. Robert De Niro, of course, Charles Grodin, Yaphet Kotto, probably, John Ashton, Dennis Farina, oh, I love it, and Joe Pantoliano, Joey Pants himself. Super excited to talk about this one today. It's so refreshing for us to get a good movie.
I know. They're so few and far between.
It is surprising because you know that half of his movies aren't very good, but when you roll a few of them in a row, it's pretty demoralizing.
Well, yeah, and it's not just that half of them aren't very good. It's that the pedigree and reputation of Robert De Niro is as like an excellent actor who stars in excellent films. Mm-hmm. And so like half of them aren't very good, but then like 35 or 40% of them are like only good, you know? And it's rare, right? Like, is this our first classic? I mean, The Untouchables, I guess, kind of. But yeah. I think this is more of a classic than The Untouchables. And importantly, this is a Robert De Niro film, right? He's in it more than anybody. So certainly, even if you count The Untouchables, this is the first classic that is starred Robert De Niro, where he's in most of the film.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. I was reading about the film after I watched it, and apparently he was the first person to be cast in the film, and he actively sought it out because he wanted to play against type after being in so many crime and gangster films. Right. He wanted to do comedy. Yep. And as we have discussed in previous episodes, like Rocky and Bullwinkle and Dirty Grandpa, yep, he's great at comedy.
He's so funny.
So I'm
so funny.
super excited for any time we get a comedic De Niro performance. This film, so Martin Brest, he directed the first Beverly Hills Cop film. I think it feels pretty similar. Have you ever watched either of those films before, Midnight Run or Beverly Hills Cop?
I have never seen a single Martin Brest film before this one.
Okay, wow, your first one. Okay.
I'd like to see more.
So this film, just to set it up a little bit, it was a major critical and commercial success. It grossed $82 million worldwide. And it was nominated for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Best Actor for De Niro at the 46th Golden Globe Awards. Not, the award show that I care about, but, still pretty exciting for the cast and crew of the film.
I was bummed when I read that because I saw what it had won, and I was like, "Oh, an Oscar winner!" And then I saw
you
that
wish,
it was Golden
man.
Globes later in the
Sorry,
sentence.
we're
and
at
I was
the Golden
like,
Globes.
I think this film deserved to win some Oscars. I'm not sure what else came out in 1988 though that it was competing with. I didn't go and look. I don't know. There are a lot of things in this movie that I think would have been deserving of at least a nomination at the Oscars in any given year that a film like this came out.
And we'll get into it in a minute. Before we do, I just want to remind the citizens of De Niro Nation that next week is our 30th episode of the podcast. We've decided to do a mailbag episode, so if you haven't sent a letter in, please feel free to email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. We loosen the rules. You can ask us a question. It doesn't have to be about movies. It could be about literally anything. It could be about music. It could be about ourselves. It could be about medical diagnoses. Literally anything you want to know about, just feel free to, sure, I'm not saying that we'll give good advice, but we're not physicians or anything, but just reach out to us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com and we'll, most likely read and respond to your letter on air next week.
Almost certainly. Unless it's just a line from a film that we may not watch until, December of 2026. But
exactly. How well the mailbag episode goes really hinges on the participation of the citizens of De Niro Nation. So if you want the episode to be longer than 15 minutes, then I highly recommend you email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. And with that, do you think we should get into Midnight Run?
I really do.
Fantastic. So what I'll say here at the top of my recap is that I missed the De Niro face reveal, and we think it's around 30 seconds in. He's in essentially almost the entire film, but I forgot to snag the time when I was watching on Netflix, and now I can't get into the account because it says I'm not a part of the Netflix household. So we'll just never know for sure.
He appears in the first 2% of the first scene. like immediately.
This is a very De Niro heavy film. And this is, we watched this for the first time. So I'm sure many people listening will have already seen this and kind of know what's coming. But we start off, this is 80s cinema just felt so different, like tonally, the way it was shot, the kind of grit and grime. It's so nice to go back to after more modern films, like the ones that were shot in the 2010s or whatever. We get this classic opening scene just establishing the main character, Robert De Niro. He plays a bounty hunter named Jack Walsh. So he's roughly 45 when this film came out, and he looks great for 45. Super cool look. He's wearing like a leather jacket. He's smoking cigarettes throughout the entire film. Definitely going to get emphysema.
Many.
Oh, yeah, a ton. And we see this first scene just to establish how much of a badass he is, you know, a crafty bounty hunter. He tries picking a lock to break into like a decrepit apartment building or hotel or something, presumably to catch some criminal, collect a bounty. And he ducks because he drops something and a shotgun hole is blown through the door. So this starts a whole chase down a fire escape at night in Los Angeles. And they get to the ground, him and the criminal that he's pursuing. And a competing bounty hunter named Marvin drives up in his car and hits the delinquent with the criminal with his car. And there's like a little bit of an altercation between De Niro, Walsh, and Marvin, the other bounty hunter, who have some kind of rivalry. Marvin wants to take the bounty in for himself, but De Niro wants it. So De Niro, you know, he outsmarts Marvin and he knocks Marvin out, takes Marvin's car, and brings the bounty in that way.
I just want to add a little bit of context here because you missed a detail that's important because it happens again later in the film as a callback. Marvin doesn't hit him with his car. He drives up and in the way that he's driving gives the impression he's not going to hit him with his car. And then just as the runner is about to go by the car, he opens the car door into him with the car moving. So it's like it's a pretty stylish car hit. Like in the alley as he's running, I think the runner just thinks like, oh, this is a car that just happens to be coming. And so he's like, I'm just going to run by, and he gets dusted. It's pretty cool. And it happens again later in the film.
Do you have any experience, not experience, maybe isn't the right word, knowledge about bounty hunters and the bounty hunting lifestyle?
I don't. No, I really don't know anything about it.
And neither do I. I think that it's one of those professions. My understanding is that it's much less glamorous than you might think, you know, just based off of Hollywood portrayals. You're just collecting people who skipped bond. Yeah. Essentially, looked down upon by the police and whatever. So De Niro delivers this criminal to the jail, and he visits the bail bondsman, who is, listen, I don't remember his fucking character name, but it's Joey Pants, everyone. Cypher from The Matrix.
Hell yeah.
I don't want to be rich. You know, someone important. Like an actor.
So De Niro visits the bail bondsman, Joey Pants himself. I don't remember the character name, but he has an incredible look. Super skeevy, like sketchy looking dude, which makes sense. He's like a bail bondsman. He has like a really bad comb over, a crazy patterned shirt and suspenders. And he has this assistant whose name I don't remember, but he'll come into play later. De Niro Walsh wants his $1,200 for collecting the bounty, but Joey Pants wants to take him out to breakfast, even though De Niro doesn't really eat breakfast. But they go out to this diner.
Doesn't really eat.
He doesn't really eat at all, huh?
I think we see him eat once in the film, and he's like eating like a chicken wing, which, man, that fair.
Yeah, we see him eat it. So really, he's appealing to the both of us because we see him eat a chicken wing, and you love chicken wings. I don't dislike chicken wings, for the record. I just can't handle eating them very often because of my sensitive tongue.
Mike takes one whiff of a chicken wing and he has diarrhea for 6 weeks.
That's not okay. There's Mike the Fab with his blue comedy. I was gonna say, it's the movie speaks to me because I also don't eat breakfast. I'm not a breakfast person. I wake up, maybe I'll scoop a handful of dry cereal into my mouth, but I'm going off of coffee and vibes. I'm just like getting into it, you know?
Yeah.
But Joey Pants tells Walsh, De Niro, about this bounty that he wants De Niro to pick up for him by the end of it's Monday, and he needs this person who skipped bail to be picked up by Friday at midnight. It's a midnight run. There you go. That's where the title comes from. So this guy, John, it was John, right? John Mardukas?
Yes, the Duke.
Yeah, I just wrote the Duke in my notes.
Yeah, we can just call him Duke or John. They kind of use it interchangeably throughout the film. Yep. Yeah,
otherwise it'd be too similar to Jack, which is De Niro's character's name. So Duke was an accountant for the mob, and he embezzled $15 million and For whatever reason, Joey Pants bailed him out for $450,000, but the Duke skipped bail. So De Niro needs to find him and bring him back to LA by the end of the week, by Friday at midnight. De Niro is sick of the lifestyle. He's sick of being shot at by delinquents and such. And so he wants $100,000 for this job, to which Joey Pants begrudgingly agrees. So there's the setup. I really tried to pay attention to this one. I was like, I'm leading the recap. This is a classic film. Let's at least try to do it. This isn't killing season, okay? Let's try to do it justice.
No.
We'll see
it's
how it goes.
It's very different from killing season.
Yeah, thank God for everyone that it is. So Jack, we see some more of his ingenuity, his connections in the local police force. He visits one of his friends at this like giant evidence room, back when, I don't know how much evidence is digital nowadays, but it's all file folders and shit like that. And so he looks at the file on the Duke and sees that apparently the Duke called a New York City based number, 212 area code, after being arrested. So that kind of gives Jack a lead. He needs to go across the country, and it's like, of course he does. It's a Robert De Niro film. We have to go to New York City at some point.
He's got to go to New York. He's not going to stay in LA. Yeah.
He can't do it for an entire film. He won't do it. So he exits the building in the middle of daytime and is just swarmed by 5 to 7 FBI agents, all wearing cool shades. And the leader is Yaphet Kotto, who you may remember as one of the guys from the first Alien film. Super cool guy. I read that apparently he commented about the filming of this film and said it was a very difficult shoot, that he was sick, and apparently the director, Marty Brest, wasn't eating during filming. So he was just kind of wasting away during, and they had a lot of difficulties and stuff. And he said he recalled thinking that he was surprised when the film came out and it was so funny because it was so not fun to shoot, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, it's impressive. It's like the power of just having highly competent people at every level, technically. It all comes together really beautifully.
It was interesting to read that this film was challenging, because you don't feel it at all as a viewer.
Yeah, it has such a breezy 80s buddy cop kind of film, even though one of the two main characters isn't a cop. But this FBI agent played by Yaphet Kotto, he's Alonzo something or other. I just put Alonzo in my notes. They force Jack into their car and ask what he knows. We
should know his name. I think it's worth knowing. Because what his name is pretty important. It's Mosley. That's
Alonzo Mosley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Jack's going to impersonate him for the whole movie. He's going to constantly introduce himself as Agent Mosley.
But you're right. Okay, Alonzo Mosley. So they want to know what Walsh knows about the Duke. The Duke says, Walsh says nothing. And, what I love about this, we're getting a glimpse of the character here, Jack Walsh. He is, he works in a dangerous profession. He smokes and wears a leather jacket. He's a real smartass. And I was really immediately falling in love with this character.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the wisecracking 80s protagonist who's just kind of cooler than everyone around him. I love that shit. That's aspirational for me.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, he's got a heart of gold, too.
Oh, my God. You have to.
Because at this point in the movie, I was like, I'm charmed by this character, but will I love him by the end? And I did. And I was like, this is like a perfect film character for me.
Do you think this film would have become an enduring classic if De Niro's character was just a total asshole through the entire thing? If he didn't have a heart of gold?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really know anything about this movie other than that it was a classic.
I didn't either. It had been on my watch list for so long, and I obviously was waiting for us to roll it to finally watch it. But anyways, while De Niro's getting out of the car, he manages to steal Alonzo Mosley's FBI ID card, which is going to come into play later, like Mike said. So Walsh gets on a red-eye flight to New York City, and he's, because this was the 80s and you didn't have Adobe Photoshop, whatever, he's doctoring Mosley's ID card by cutting his little picture to cover Mosley's, and it's so great. And it's great. He's doing it next to this little kid who's just watching him. That's gotta be a big felony.
That's gonna change that kid's life. That's a formative experience right there.
That kid is going to become a bounty hunter.
Right. Having this positive interaction with a bounty hunter. It's gonna one of the 10 most important things that's gonna happen in his childhood. This scene in this movie.
That kid actually grew up to be Dog the Bounty Hunter. It's an origin story. So Jack, he's in New York City, and two stereotypical Italian mobster type guys approach him and they work for this big mobster in Chicago, and they offer $1 million for the Duke. So, their proposition is, instead of bringing the Duke to LA to go to jail for $100,000, give him to us and we'll give you $1 million. So this guy, one of the mobsters, Tony, gives Jack his card, and we cut to Jack staking out the address that he found in New York City. He's like in his car at night watching. Great New York City vibes in this film. The way it was shot was really nice. I really enjoyed just the general feel of the film. Very nostalgic in a nice kind of way.
It's got a very gritty feel to it. It's that's really nice. Everything feels. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like the best parts of The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight, which were like the sets and the way it was shot. It had that same kind of gritty New York City feel to it, like all the locations they shot in, like super, super cool.
We lost something when we switched from film to digital.
Yeah, we did.
He does this whole thing, Walsh does this whole thing where he calls a Mrs. Nelson impersonating Agent Alonzo or Agent Mosley, my bad, whatever. And she's who Duke called. So Jack also managed to tap the phone line. So he's like recording he's able to hear what happens after he gets off the phone, because he like spooks her by saying, I'm an FBI agent. I'd like to talk to you tomorrow.
Right, I'm calling to ask about this guy.
Right. She immediately calls Duke. And so he knows that they're in contact.
That's not what happened.
What?
Just so you know.
Okay, what happened?
Oh, wait, was it a phone call? It was a phone call, right? Because then his wife answers the phone.
And AOL
because I was remembering the discussion they had in person. But the person whom Jack called calls Duke's wife, and we hear Duke over the phone from the other side of the room say to his wife, hang the phone up. So that's what it was. Okay, we got there.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's nighttime now, and Jack picks a lock and breaks into the house where he suspects the Duke is hiding. So he sneaks around. There's an altercation where a dog barks at him, and he kind of like locks himself in a bathroom behind the shower door glass. And we see Duke for the first time, who is played by Charles Grodin. And I think this might actually have been the first Charles Grodin role I'd ever seen before.
I've never seen him in anything. He's amazing in this film.
Oh,
this is an incredible performance.
He's so damn good. I only remember him, or I only like knew him from the Always Sunny bit about him. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know if I do.
Well, I'll pop it right here for the listening audience.
I can't be getting sick. I gotta be able to talk to Groban tomorrow.
Who?
Josh Groban. Artemis and I got backstage passes to his concert in the park tomorrow.
Charles Grodin is coming in concert and you didn't tell us?
Aw! We love Charles Grodin. That dude is hysterical. I love that guy.
He brings out the curmudgeon in.
Yeah.
No, different guy. Josh Groban is who I'm talking about.
Josh Groban. Oh, well, is he Charles Grodin's son? He's probably funny. What do you think?
Oh, if he's related to Charles Grodin, he is. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, two totally different people. Charles Grodin is a bitter old man with a giant head, and Josh Groban is a beautiful singer with the voice of an angel.
Oh, he's a singer.
Call Charles Grodin a bitter old man one more time and see what happens.
Whoa, calm down, man.
All right, sorry.
Jack meets the Duke, and he's still pretending to be an FBI agent. Big felony. But he takes the Duke in, and they're hanging out in the car at night. They're going to go to the airport. It's simple, right? They're going to go to the airport. They're going to fly from New York to LA, take another red eye or whatever, and they'll be back in no time. Not so simple, because Duke says that he suffers from severe phobias that prevent him from flying. When this is kind of happening, Jack doesn't give a shit. And of course, why would you? Like, who cares? Shut the fuck up. You're a fugitive.
Right. Everybody's going to lie.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah, I would. Right. I'd say anything I had to say to try to get myself a better chance of fleeing if I was in this situation.
Absolutely. Jack calls Joey Pants before he leaves just to let him know. And this is when we learn that the call is being tapped by the FBI. So all the players are going to kind of like coalesce at some point. We also learn here in this scene that Joey Pants' partner or assistant or whatever, the other guy who works in the office with him, is a rat for the mob. I'm not really sure how they got connected, but whatever, doesn't matter. So it's pretty funny too, because this character, he does a lot with very little. He looks super skeevy, and like anytime he wants to talk to the mob, his excuse is like, oh, we should celebrate with some donuts or something. And he'll just like leave the office to make a call. It's really good stuff.
Always leaving to go get donuts. Like that's an excuse every time he wants to do something duplicitous. It's like, man, like, oh, you should get a dozen, man. Like, how many donuts do you guys eat?
It's
feel like you get a
like
dozen,
the default
it's gonna last you
that
a day
they
or two.
sell.
Like, yeah.
It's honestly surprising that you go in and only order one every time.
Right. He's getting one, and then he gets back, and Joey Pants is like, "You didn't bring me one." He's like, "Oh shit, I gotta go out again and do something else duplicitous. I'll get you your donut." Yep.
You a donut guy? Donut fan?
You know, I'm not really a sweet food fan. You know, so I mean, I like the occasional donut. I probably have a donut 1.5 times a year, I would say. So like
I'm not
2
a big
donuts
donut guy
every 3
either.
years. I
I'm
think
not a
is
breakfast
about where I'm
guy.
at. Yep.
What's
I
your
like a
go-to?
donut.
What kind?
I'm really simple. I just like a nice old fashioned. You know, like we don't need to make this complicated. You know, I don't know. What about you?
You know, I like a nice chocolate glaze or a jelly filled. You know.
No.
Listen, if
We're
I'm
like
only
donut
having,
opposites.
I'm having fewer than 5 a year. Let me indulge a little bit. Let me get some of that
That's
jelly.
fucking nuts. Too indulgent. That's too indulgent.
Too indulgent.
Yep. Give me a nice old fashioned. You know, I'm a humble man of simple tastes.
You are, you know, you are the kind of guy who eats the unfrosted shredded wheat.
Yeah, I've probably had like 50 donuts in my entire life, I would guess, and I'm thinking 40 to 45 of them are a bit old fashions. I very rarely diverge.
It's incredible
from that.
I'm so glad that I ask these questions when we record.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it basically is a utopia.
Citizens, who, you know, if you're out there, that could have been a question, right? Hey, Mike and Mike, what's your favorite donut type?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Somebody, why don't you write in and ask me about my, you know, what I eat for breakfast when I eat breakfast, and I'll,
Wow.
I would love to talk about that. It's pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, sure. Or try to think of a better question. But either way, ourhero@deniro@gmail.com. So FBI is on to them. The mob is on to them, and we meet the big mobster for the first time, whose name I think is Jimmy, but it doesn't matter because I'm only ever going to refer to him by the actor's name, Dennis Farina himself, one of the
man
all-time
Yep.
legendary Chicago character actors. I love Dennis Farina. It was so great seeing him here as the big
Likewise
bad.
incredible in this film.
Well, that's one of the things about this film, right? Like the casting is perfect. No one is miscast. Everyone is great. So we get to hang out with Dennis Farina for a few minutes. He's at a casino in Vegas, and so he's informed. So everyone's kind of, you know, in on this now. Jack and Duke, they're on the plane, and they're in first class. I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to ask you another question. Have you ever flown first class?
No.
Neither
Have you
have
ever
I.
flown first class?
No. Sad.
I mean, you can, I guess, like if you count it, right, which I really don't, I think I got upgraded to first class in air quotes on like a regional American Airlines flight,
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
5 or 10 years ago. And it's just moving up to sit in the front row in a slightly bigger seat. It's like, but like this experience that they have, right? So you only get this experience on international flights. Like this is what first class is like on an international flight. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever looked into this, but like, you know, it turns a $1,500 overseas flight into an $18,000 overseas flight. Like it's like this kind of first class experience is a true luxury for the richest of the rich. Only.
Right. Yeah, I've never flown first class. I'm not fussy in that way. Like we're not tall guys, and like I'm not particularly comfortable in coach, but like whatever, it's fine.
I kind of don't ever want to do it, to be honest, because I feel like it would ruin flying for me.
Oh yeah. Once
Like
you
if
get
you're
a
only going to
taste,
be able to do it, you know, 1 or 2% of the time you fly, it's like I don't think I want to know what it's like.
right? If I ever get diagnosed with stage 4 something, doesn't even matter what it is, stage 4 anything, I'm flying
Stage
first
4
class.
mind dementia.
Yeah,
you
stage
already
4,
got it, man.
My
So
mind
go,
dementia has
treat yourself.
deteriorated.
Yep.
It's too severe. My recaps are too out of control. I'll fly to like Bali first class or whatever. So they're on the plane now, and Duke starts freaking the fuck out. Despite it's so spacious, he's like, I'm afraid of flying. I'm afraid of, you know, I'm agoraphobic and like this and that and whatever. And he starts making a scene. And he starts yelling things like, honestly, really great delivery. One of my favorite deliveries in the film. He yells, "These things go down. It's too big. It can't go up."
It's really good.
This is why like science literacy is so important, because I definitely I didn't really fly until my early 20s for work. I'd only ever flown once prior to that. And like, it doesn't seem like a plane should be able to fly, you know, until you learn the science behind it. It makes total sense.
The science is very simple. You can explain it to anyone.
They get kicked off the plane for this outburst, which I mean, I guess you probably couldn't get away with back then, and you certainly couldn't get away with nowadays. I think you'd probably be like arrested or something.
I don't know. Tough to say. If you were still on the tarmac.
Yeah, I guess you're still on the tarmac.
Yeah, in the air. I think you probably freak some people out. They'd restrain you, I think.
Yeah. These things go down. You yell that on a flying airplane. You're Charles Grodin.
We don't want it to go down.
So air travel is no longer an option, and Jack decides to go for the next best available option, the train station. So they get a double room on some Amtrak train, and Jack keeps the Duke handcuffed to a door. The FBI arrives on the plane, but it's too late, and Mosley learns that Jack is impersonating him because he's been telling like the pilot and the stewardess and like everyone that he's FBI agent Alonzo Mosley.
One thing you haven't acknowledged yet that I don't know, so I wouldn't, just so you know, because it's not the kind of thing that's really of interest to me, but it feels like something you normally would mention, so I'm just going to mention it, is the tone of this film, right? Like, you're never talking about it, but like, you know, this film has a serious story, but it's a slapstick comedy. So there's a lot of goofy jokes that have happened so far. And so like all of this stuff that you're talking about is depicted slightly askance. Like it's a little funny that like Jack is getting away with impersonating Mosley. Mosley's reaction to it is a little funny. Like he's like scandalized, but like I don't think he takes it as seriously as probably an actual FBI agent would if some random civilian were impersonating him. So just the tone is important here, right? Because it's I think a dispassionate explanation of the events doesn't necessarily convey that like this is a comedy, right? Everything that's happening is depicted in a very funny kind of goofy way.
Right. I mean, it's essentially a road trip comedy. Like that's what the tone is Beverly Hills Cop. Like that's my shorthand. If you've seen that film, then like you know exactly what you're getting into with the tone of Midnight Run. But you're absolutely right. Like everything plays for laughs here. The real Mosley's frustration at being one step behind Jack and knowing that he's being impersonated, that sort of thing. So absolutely right.
Yep.
We're on the train and they talk money while they eat dinner. And Jack says his kind of plan once he gets his money, he'd like to open a cafe. And I loved that. I would love, this is serious. I'm being serious right now. I would love in retirement to open a cafe. I've talked about this with a friend of the pod, Philip, before. Here's why I think it could be successful, because I wouldn't care about making a profit. I would only want to break even because it'd be in retirement. You know, if I could just like have it kind of pay for itself.
To do.
Right, have something to do. Yep. Like I could either be behind the counter and like whip up some nice espresso shots for people, or just hang out at the table reading my whatever VR hologram brainwave version of the New York Times, just like blasting my eyeballs with information.
Failing New York Times.
Yeah, you just you see my eyes going into the back of my head like one of the computer people from Dune. Like that's I think how it'll be 50 years from now or whatever. But no, it sounds like a very nice dream that Jack has. Joey Pants calls the bounty hunter Marvin from the first scene who got knocked out. And, you know, we kind of learn how Marvin is kind of a dummy.
I want to take this opportunity to add some more context that I feel like you're not adding.
Okay.
So in these moments, too, these early moments, we're establishing Jack and Duke's relationship, right? Which is like, it's kind of odd couple-ish, right? Like, this is like a road trip comedy, and it's these two people traveling together who have this power imbalance in their relationship, but they also have a lot of like dispositional differences, right, between the two of them. And you see it happen, I think, like most notably first on the train. And so this scene where they're talking about the coffee shop is funny because they have this back and forth where Duke insists several times in a row, if I were your accountant, I'd tell you it's not a very good idea to open a restaurant because they have a high failure rate. And Jack says, yeah, but you're not my accountant. And they go back and forth and do this like,
but if I was your
enough
accountant,
times that it makes it funnier. Like it's like that it's as dragged out as it is. And it's like we're setting the tone here, right? For like, this is like it's like a buddy, like odd couple bromance road trip comedy, essentially, like these two characters together.
I mean, it's essentially a buddy cop film where one of the main characters isn't a cop, but it is that odd couple dynamic, you know, your Rush Hours, your Lethal Weapons and what have you. And that's great. So I was already predisposed to liking it. But, you know, Joey Pants offers Marvin $25,000 to capture the Duke because he doesn't trust Jack to or whatever. And so Jack and Duke were back on the train with them. They're bickering over Jack's meal choice. This is where Jack eats the single chicken wing or whatever. And that's what an Amtrak meal was in 1988. Yeah, I'll get the one chicken wing.
Chicken wing.
Yeah, well, they didn't have a lot of space for fryers on the train, you know. Can you imagine being a fry cook on a fucking train? It's like,
it sounds really scary.
Just like
honestly,
getting splashed
it's
with,
like, I don't know,
with
like
hot oil all
just
the
imagine
time.
there's a stone on the track while your hand is over the vat of boiling oil. Like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like it would be great.
Oh man, yeah, don't do fried food on a train.
And this is the point where Duke first starts opining on Jack's lifestyle, right? So he says, "You ever hear of arterial sclerosis?" Because he sees him eating one chicken wing. And I did find this funny because I thought in this moment, like he smoked like 45 cigarettes in front of him by this point. It's like, it's the chicken wing that makes you like make a comment upon the choices he's making about what he's putting in his body, but he will comment on the smoking.
He does talk about the cigarettes later, so he was ahead of the curve on that. He's like, just because you can smoke in a Friendly's in 1988 in New York doesn't mean you should, you know?
Doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, exactly.
Not this much, probably not.
We learn a bit about Duke's origin story. So this is interesting. I want to talk about this a little bit, Duke's background. So Duke claims that the $15 million that he embezzled from the mob, he stole it and he donated it. So, he's trying to paint himself as a noble person. He's Robin Hooding, essentially. Stole it from the mob, donated it to people who actually needed it. We learned a bit about Jack, his background. He left an ex-wife and daughter behind in Chicago, but we don't really learn the details of like why the marriage broke down or why he moved to LA from Chicago. And, Duke basically try selling Jack on the idea that if you bring me in, I will be murdered by the mob in jail. You're essentially signing my death warrant by bringing me into LA to do this. And there's like a comedy beat at the end of the scene where they get up and Jack leaves it. This is like so fucking us coded, by the way. I felt it so deep in my fucking soul because they get up from their dinner to walk back to their room, their double car or whatever. And Duke looks at the tip that Jack gave on the receipt and he admonishes Jack for being a cheap tipper. He's like, "That's all you tipped?" And Jack just goes, "What? It's 15%." And Duke replies, "No, it's 13%." And so like Jack has to update it or whatever. I literally wrote real Mike and Mike dynamic forming, LOL. Like I would absolutely just back in the day, you could just double the tax, Jesus Christ. Like we think I fucking hate tipping culture. We think too much about it. I don't want it to be a goddamn debate. I don't want to have to tip for everything. I can't just double the tax and like round up. I guess that's where Jack went wrong. He didn't round up.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doubling the tax and rounding up. In New York State, that would be 16% plus whatever small amount you do to round up. Like, I don't know, it's not like an exciting tip or anything, but I think if you leave a 17 to 20% tip, like, that seems like an acceptable amount to tip as a habit. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify for the listeners out there, my default tip is 20%. I'm not an under tipper. Like I don't agree with tipping culture, but I'm not one of these like weirdos on TikTok who's like, "Oh no, like never
won't do it."
Yeah, that's how you protest effectively is just stiff the working class people.
The impact I want my principal to have on the world is that my server who's getting paid $2.35 an hour isn't making more than minimum wage once the restaurant grosses up their tips to make up for the shortfall. Like I really need to save this $2 on principle.
Yeah, so Marvin, he gets on the train and searches for Jack. Jack confronts Marvin in front of a train and Amtrak employee, and the employee calls the cops. I think he calls the cops, who inform the FBI. The FBI arrive at the train, but too late for Jack had already left with the Duke. Jack calls Joey Pants again, but this time he's a smart guy. We're seeing this unfold through his character's actions. He understands that he's being tapped at this, or that the calls are being tapped at this point, so he doesn't give an accurate location. The problem here is Jack can't afford tickets anymore because his credit card has been canceled. So apparently he only travels with one credit card. And at first I thought no cash, but he did actually have some cash. So he ponies up $264 for 2 bus tickets, which that was $264 in 1988 money. I think that's roughly $700 these days.
Yeah, going all the way across the country, right?
It's crazy. Is it really that? much to go across country on bus?
No, it's much less now. So
Yeah.
these are things, right? So you could look at CPI if you like want to look at like, so let's talk about inflation for a minute, right? So like the way they do CPI, right, is they have what are called a basket of materials, and they use like this hypothetical mix of like different things that a person could be expected to purchase, and they average them all out to get what the CPI is every year to calculate the inflation rate. But because it's blended, you have some things up at the top, like food to a certain extent, to a lesser extent, I think, but then like things that have gone up quite a bit, in certain measures like energy, which is excluded from some measures, but like whatever, and healthcare have gone up a lot. But then there are other items like electronics has actually gone down really significantly. But then something else that's gone down really significantly in real dollars is transit. And so I am guessing actually that in $2025, a cross country bus ticket would probably still cost about the same amount of money, like $300 for two of them, because that's one of the things that has gotten a lot cheaper. Like air travel is another thing. Like if you talk to like our parents, for example, or like especially like our parents, people who haven't like updated their priors on how much stuff costs, they think of air travel as a luxury because a round trip plane ticket also cost $400 in the late 1980s. That price just like hasn't changed. So it's become much cheaper over the past 35 years to fly than it used to be. But like older folks, maybe who don't fly much and who like haven't really engaged with the way the prices have changed, that's a luxury to them, because in the late 80s, it's like, I think probably the average like income was the low $20,000 a year. So $400 for a round trip flight was like, I don't know, man, that was like 2 or 3% of the money you were going to make in a year. That was a lot of fucking money. Whereas
It's a
now
lot of money.
the average income's like high 60s, low 70s. And so $400, like obviously still a lot of money, but the average family can do a flight every year. If you're making in the low 70s a year, like you can fly once a year, whereas it would have been a huge imposition in this time period.
I'm so glad we had the old CPI discussion here.
Yeah, there you go.
So just to set up the stage now, Marvin is in a police precinct and the FBI comes in. So they're kind of congregating and syncing up on their information that they have about Jack. Meanwhile, Jack and Duke are on the bus. This is where we get the argument about smoking, and they bicker some more. And we're getting that.
Yeah, my CPI comment made me lose track of something else that I wanted to say. I think that as a road trip movie, it's an exceptional film. Something that I think is really exceptional about it is the way that it employs like a kind of clockwork nature story. And so like we're going to talk a lot over the rest of this recap about how like everybody keeps showing up. And what's really cool about it is like, Mosley keeps showing up, right? Like he's always on Jack and Duke's heels. It never feels contrived. Like this is like a clockwork story where like everybody is always in the right place at the right time, but it never feels like, oh, this is unbelievable. This would never happen. Like it is so expertly written. This script is so tight. The way it finds these really plausible explanations to constantly put these characters like in close proximity to each other, even though it's a road trip movie. It's fucking awesome. Like it's so cool.
I agree. It's interesting. You're right, because the pacing of it is really good. The characters are always right on Jack and Duke's heels, and so that keeps the tension up. And so we're getting this really nice balance of the tension and the action, but also we still have time, room to breathe, time to spend with these main characters, Jack and Duke, and see their relationship develop. So it's really well written. It's a really good script.
Another thing that I'd remark on that I think might get lost, you just acknowledged it, because we've talked, I think, so much contextually about the tone of this film as being comedic, and the tone is comedic. You mentioned the cinematography at the top of your recap, and it is exceptional. But I think you primarily talked about it in terms of like the feel of the movie. But you just acknowledged this film has incredible action sequences. Like they're like kinetic and frantic. Like you can tell there's a lot of like practical effects and stunts being done. And like it's not a slouch as an action film. Like the action sequences are really, really cool. This is like, it's very well shot. It's all really good.
That's its magic trick, right? The fact that it is competent both as an action film and as a comedy is really puts it in like rarefied air. I think that is like why it stood the test of time. The craziest shit is about to happen at this point. So we get a little scene of Dennis Farina, the mobster, and he's visited by his lawyer or something, who I think is played by Philip Baker Hall, which is great. Another great character actor, the library cop from Seinfeld.
71, that was my first year on the job. Bad year for libraries. Bad year for America. Hippies burning library cards. Abby Hoffman telling everybody to steal books. I don't judge a man by the length of his hair or the kind of music he listens to. Rock was never my bag. But you put on a pair of shoes when you walk into the New York Public Library, fella.
Look, Mr. Bookman.
And Farina seems really chill about the whole thing, and we don't know why. You know, it's ominous. And we cut back to the bus pulling up in some city. I don't even know where we are at this point. And we see as the bus is kind of pulling in and going to park or stop in the city, there are marksmen, like mob marksmen on rooftops, like watching the bus and getting ready to take Jack and Duke out, which is fucking crazy. Can you imagine like the national headlines that would occur in today's age if snipers on rooftops just fucking executed two people exiting a bus? It'd be really out of control.
I mean, I think even in the late 80s, that would have been obviously like extremely newsworthy, but that kind of violence was just so much more normative. You know, in the 70s and 80s than it is now. And it's like one of those things, right, where it's like the like brain deadest take that the movie person has, that like the world is more dangerous right now. And it's like demonstrably, quantitatively, in every way, it is quite the opposite. Because like to your point, this would never happen now. It would be insane. But like there were like brutal, somewhat sensational murders with the pretty significant regularity back in this time.
Back in the day, the 80s.
Yeah, back in the day. Yep.
So Jack and Duke start to exit the bus, and right before the mob marksmen can take them out, the FBI swarms the bus. And so the marksmen, this is kind of nuts to me. The marksmen hold off while Mosley arrests Jack and Duke. Okay, fine. I was like, okay, the marksmen are going to have to back off now because there is like an entire team patrol of FBI agents. But then the marksmen...
It's like a dozen cars.
Right.
Like, it's like so many agents, like a fucking army.
Like, it's one thing to execute like a fugitive and a bounty hunter, but the marksmen open fire on this crowd of FBI agents.
Federal agents.
Right. That's really
not even like a
crazy.
regular cop.
Right.
Like federal law enforcement. Like there's like kind of like the most untouchable people in like official life other than like really senior politicians.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in the chaos, Jack and Duke manage to escape in an FBI car, which is Mosley's car, and they ditch it shortly after. The mobster Tony, one of the two Italian mobster types that we met in the beginning of the film, calls Dennis Farina, and so everyone's up to date on what happened. In the next scene, Jack and Duke exit a taxi at the end of a cul-de-sac during the day. So we're in Chicago because we arrive at Jack's ex-wife's place.
Right. So that's where they were, just so you know.
Yes,
you said
in
a few
Chicago.
minutes ago, I didn't remember that you didn't know where they were. They've been in Chicago this whole time. Right now they're in Chicago. Yep.
Right. They're in Chirac, Illinois.
And notably, because you didn't mention this, earlier Jack confided a little bit in Duke about the circumstances of his like life. You know, he's got this ex-wife, he's got this young daughter, and Duke tried to convince him to like go see them because they were going to pass through Chicago. So, through like his arguments that he should, as well as these circumstances that kind of mean they need to find a friendly person who will maybe help them out a little bit. He's doing it. He's going to go back and like see his family, whom he hasn't seen in 9 years, he says.
Well, I'm sure you're going to fill in some details on this family reunion.
Yep.
Some little kid answers the door, and Jack talks to his ex-wife, Gail, who, it's kind of cold, but she's, open to talking to him, whatever. She says they're on the news. That's not a good thing. And
Nope.
And their conversation escalates into more of an argument because after they broke up, she married like a lieutenant on the force or something. Now he's a captain. They argue about that. And his daughter...
He was crooked.
It's implied that he was crooked.
Everybody's a crooked cop, huh?
And his daughter over here, like, here's the commotion. And so they have a reunion. And Gail basically gives them money to like help them on their way, whatever. And as they're going to leave, the daughter runs out to the car and offers Jack her babysitting money. Very bittersweet, very touching moment. It's like the script's working. It's all working on me. So far. Oh, you know what though? Actually, let's pause. Let's talk about this right now because I don't know where else we will. The score of this film was composed by Danny Elfman.
I'm excited.
How did you feel? How did you feel about the score?
It's easily my favorite thing about the movie. It is my
Really?
favorite film score that I have heard for the first time in years. After I finished watching the movie, I listened to the score. So I can tell you and me have different feelings about this.
Well, describe the score. How would you describe the score?
So here's how I would describe this soundtrack. I was playing a little bit of Mario Kart World before I watched this film, and it sounds like Mario Kart music, honestly. And if you've ever played any Mario Kart game, you know what Mario Kart music sounds like, and it is like they are so similar to each other, like the music in a Mario Kart racing, in a Mario Kart race, and the music that plays in this film. Obviously, this film's score is better than Mario Kart music, but that's the sound. It's very rock oriented. It's like very peppy, very lush instrumentation, extremely upbeat, lots of major tonality. It's a pretty crazy score. For me, it carries the film. So I think that's my more substantive description, is that it's like rock oriented and not like rock, like hard rock, but more like rock and roll, rockabilly, lots of
blues
pianos,
rock,
very
kinda.
jaunty, it's awesome.
Interesting.
God, I love it so much.
I go back and forth on it a little bit. I think overall I did like it. It's just I'm not a big Danny Elfman fan in general.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I like some of his work for sure. He's very talented, but his scores have a way of dominating the films that they're in a way that kind of clashes with my sensibilities. And this is no exception.
My sensibilities.
Well, no. But for me, I actually did like the soundtrack. I like that it wasn't a traditional Danny Elfman score. It was, like you said, is much more rock or kind of classic rock, peppy, upbeat oriented. And that's all good. It just dominates the film in a way that sometimes I was really enjoying, really into the score, having a lot of fun with it. And other times I was like, man, it's kind of overpowering. It's a little too much.
Yeah. That kind of maximalism is what I like.
It's like putting too much of a garnish on a dish. That's the only thing that I think really didn't quite work for me, but it still mostly worked for me.
Did you watch the Parallax View?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It kind of reminds me of the Parallax View. The score
interesting.
does. That's not going to be my recommendation, but I think that's a thing that I really like in filmmaking that you don't. Is I like being manipulated in that way, and so it doesn't offend my sensibilities when the music is a major part of the aesthetic of the film, to the point where it's almost a character on its own. I really like that kind of maximalist filmmaking. So this really worked for me. It made me like it so much more that the score took up so much space.
Okay. At this point in the film, Jack knows the line is tapped. Joey Pants informs his rat partner, who he doesn't know is a rat, that Jack is in Amarillo, Texas. So everyone knows this now. And Jack and Duke, beautiful country. Jack and Duke are driving at night, and they discuss Jack's origin story, his background. So he was a Chicago cop who wouldn't go dirty for a major mobster. I'll give you one guess who that major mobster was. And so his fellow cops, his colleagues, framed him and basically forced him out of the force because he wouldn't get on the take. And that's why he left and went to Los Angeles. I have a question here, just narratively. I wonder about this origin story and the relationship between Jack and his ex-wife, Gail. I don't know. Wouldn't you stick by your man, okay, honey, you don't want to be a corrupt cop and report to this mobster. Why don't we switch departments to, I don't know, somewhere else in Illinois?
I don't know.
Champaign, Illinois. Beautiful.
I mean, listen, I would never, I'm pretty confident about this. I would never be a crooked cop. It's just, I am way too principled about that kind of thing, and way too obsessed with the way that I am seen by others to ever do something like that. But I don't think that's a way that most people feel, right? And so I think that it's pretty easy to imagine that she was friends with other cops' wives who were taking the money, right? And
got a new RV,
houses and nicer cars, and then her husband comes and he's like, yeah, like I don't want to do this, so I'm going to get run out of town. And like, I think it would be very natural if her reaction then, given that maybe she's already been feeling resentful that his principledness is preventing them from having these kinds of things. And like, now he's going to lose his job over it. I think it would be very understandable if her reaction was like, dude, just go with the fucking flow. Like, take the bribe, dude. Like, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody's doing it.
Right.
And I don't agree with that, but that's like a pretty normative like thing that people feel, I think.
Yeah, maybe they used to get into marital arguments about how much money Jack was spending on cigarettes all the time.
Yes.
Jack, you're smoking 40 a day. They were pretty cheap back then.
Right? I mean, how much do you think a pack of cigarettes was?
I don't know, man. I was just goofing.
$1, I would guess.
I was just riffing.
Sometimes I'm just riffing. Would you allow me to riff? As the leader, can I riff? Can I riff?
Oh, there's a whole website about this. Price of a pack of cigarettes. That's fascinating. All right, hold on. So in the 80s, the average price was $1.01 a pack. So not significantly less than $1, but $1. Really cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All this cigarette talk is making me have a Nick fit. I need
some. Light one up.
No, I need some delicious Nicorette gum. I'm feeling tempted. I'm gonna go to CVS after this and buy some Nicorette.
Hey, you come over this weekend, man.
Shaking.
Let's split a pack of Nicorette.
Let's do it. Let's try some Nicorette. We'll report back to the citizens of De Niro Nation if we actually do that. Let's see. What other important beats do we have here?
Well, so hold on. I wanna talk about the family scene, right?
Okay.
So I find this scene tremendous. Like, this is like the heart of the movie for me, because I think up until this point, we don't really understand what kind of person Jack is, right? Mm-hmm. We know that he's a grumpy asshole, but we don't really understand why. He's just like I think before this point, like very soon before this point, or maybe very soon after, like it's going to happen soon, Duke and Jack are talking, and Jack tells him he has an ulcer. And that it's flaring up because Duke is stressing him out. And Duke says, no, your ulcer is flaring up because you have two modes of expression, silence and rage. And so like these are the only things that we've seen Jack express, right? And so you wonder, like, up until this point in the film, like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy, you know? And so like this is kind of what it all turns on, right? We understand the context a little bit better of his exit from his life. And so we understand in this moment, like how that might have made him like a very grouchy, resentful person. Even though there's like something a little more decent in there that's just not coming out. We see his and his wife's fight, his ex-wife's fight. And so we understand their marital dynamic a little bit better. And we can see the way the marriage may have broken down. And then we see the way his tone and communication style changes immediately when she sees his daughter, when he sees his daughter. And we see that she still loves him, even though he's been gone for 9 years. And so we learn so much about Jack in this scene, about like the kind of man that he was and like how he's become the kind of man that he is. And it's like, it's expert storytelling. The scene is only like 3 minutes long, like, but so much about the character of Jack turns on this moment. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just incredible storytelling through showing. Like, we've talked so much in this podcast about like exposition based storytelling, right? Like, this is like the opposite of that. Like, we learn everything we know about Jack essentially from the ways we see him behave and interact with other people. And like, a lot of it is the strength of De Niro's performance for sure. But like, this is just a great script. Like, it's really, really good.
Yeah, that's truly the foundation for a great film, as we've learned over the past few months of doing this podcast. So Duke, okay, I'm not 100% sure here. He says the reason Dennis Farina wants Duke killed is because Duke, I think he said he almost pulled, but I think did he almost pull or did he pull? Was this like a bluff later in the film, or was it for real?
The discs?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have the discs. It's a bluff later in the film.
So it's a bluff.
He had them, I think, but he lost them.
Yeah.
So Dennis Farina thinks he has them.
Yep. So Dennis Farina is under the impression that Duke pulled all of his like financial transaction records digitally, like on floppy disks, and was going to use that as some sort of leverage. So that's why he wants to kill Duke, so that he can't like turn state's witness or whatever and testify against Dennis Farina.
Another thing that I think has happened up to this point that you haven't mentioned that is an important character beat. I apologize if it hasn't happened yet and I'm mistaken and you are going to mention it, but we have learned, I think at this point, the like provenance of Duke having been on the mob's payroll and like his decision to steal the money and donate it to charity, right? So what Duke reveals is that he is just an accountant. He was an accountant for a legitimate firm that he discovered through his work was a front for the mob, and that was what led to him doing this. Was like he discovered that he had been in the employ of violent criminals for years, like doing their bidding without realizing it. And so as like an act of rebellion and also in his eyes, I think redemption for him. So rebellion against the mob and redemption for him. He stole this $15 million and donated it to charity as like his act against that.
Can I say that when I watched the film, the script, you know, it's a very good script, and it goes out of its way to really like beat you over the head with the fact that Duke, Charles Grodin, he's a good guy, and that this was a noble act, and that he was he's kind of a patsy, and he found out, and so he stole this money to do something good with it. My problem watching it, I'm so cynical. I didn't believe that at first. I thought it was another like yarn he was spinning to Jack.
Oh, I understand.
So he lied about the airplane thing or whatever. He's like, you know, he's obviously trying to escape being delivered to the police. So it was like, sure, he's painting this story where he's a Robin Hood type figure trying to tug at Jack's heartstrings, but it is actually true. You know, it's an act of genuine opening up in their relationship. So I think if I rewatched the film, I'd probably appreciate it a little more. I wouldn't feel quite so cynical about Duke's character. So the next big thing that happens, we get another fun action scene. And you're right, the composition of the action, it's shot really well. It's very clear. It's very logically laid out, so you can follow it really well, which is great. No quick cutting nonsense or anything like that. Basically, there's a whole confrontation that happens underneath a bridge, like by a river, a raging river. So the mob guys, Tony and the other guy, they're in a helicopter and spot Jack and Duke. Marvin shows up coincidentally at the same time and like confronts Jack and Duke. Jack handcuffs himself to Duke and throws away the key so that Marvin has to take the both of them in to Los Angeles. And when this happens, like there's like a whole confrontation. I'm going to do such a piss poor job of explaining this. There's like a whole thing happening in the helicopter shooting at Jack and Duke. The guys run out of the car underneath a bridge. A gunfight ensues. Yeah, I mean, I just do it quickly, right? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. It's just like an action scene.
So everything you said happens, right? So Marvin takes them and they're handcuffed together, so he has to take them both in the car. And as he puts them in the car and they drive away, a helicopter shows up that has some of the mob goons in it. And so a chase ensues where guys in the helicopter are shooting with automatic rifles at the car, and like it's pretty cool, honestly. It's a really cool scene. Like parts of the car are like flying off, and like all the stuff that's happening with the helicopter is really cool. Like it's kind of ducking and weaving, and there are these moments where you wonder like, will it crash? But it never does. And then they end up in the situation that you're describing. I think the car's been decommissioned in some way, like maybe like the engine was shot such that it doesn't work or something. And so they stop under this bridge, and then you can tell the thing that you're going to tell. But like you missed the whole action of the helicopter scene.
So essentially where we end up is the handcuffs are removed that are, you know, keeping Jack and Duke together. And Duke tries to get away by jumping into this raging river. So Jack punches Marvin out again, a recurring theme in this movie, and jumps in to follow Duke. Duke, this is like classic movie bullshit, seems totally fucking impossible. It's like a big, wide, raging river, strong current. Yep. But Duke somehow manages to, he manages to grab onto a wet fucking branch and pulls himself up. And while that's happening,
on a rock, actually, like a rock outcropping.
No, he's not. Jack's
which is more unbelievable, just so you know.
Yeah,
but
Duke is on a branch and pulls himself up. Jack is barely holding on to a wet rock, which how could that possibly work? But whatever. And there's a scene where, like a little moment where, you know, Jack is yelling out for Duke's help and Duke walks away. And, you know, it's classic cinematic fake out. He comes back with a big old stick and, you know, he makes Jack promise that he won't take him in. He won't deliver him in LA to the police. And so Jack promises and takes him out. So he saves him, he saves Jack's life. And then Jack immediately goes back on his word and handcuffs himself to Duke again. And while that's happening, the FBI agents inform Alonzo Mosley. The full name's important. And and then Duke and Jack have to walk down a long dirt road and try to hitchhike, but there's no one there. So this is all happening. Everything's kind of going foobar for the mob. And so Dennis Farina's getting angry. You know, we're just kind of getting little updates about all the characters here. And you're absolutely right. The way this is paced, we're getting just enough time with the different parties. No one's overstaying their welcome. We know, like, okay, this is what Farina knows and he's pissed. This is what Mosley knows and like where the FBI, you know, what the FBI status is. And it's all great. It's all working together really well, really nicely. Jack and Duke, they pull up to some ranch. They like manage to hitchhike in a pickup truck, and they go to like some old ranch with this busted ass looking airplane, like the kind that they did the stunt in the last Mission Impossible film, which is never going to be my fucking recommendation. I was not a fan of The Final Reckoning, but that's a whole other conversation. Maybe that'll be my birthday pick. Just an angry recap of the 8th Mission Impossible film. You want to recap another 3-hour film
about you know, the kind of slow degradation of you know, the Chris McQuarrie Mission Impossible films over the past decade.
I should not have chosen to accept that mission. Where were we? So we see the plane, obviously, you know, foreshadowing what's to come. And so Duke, they're 30 miles from the nearest town. And so Duke manages to give Jack the slip and steals the plane. So he tries flying off, and there's a chase scene where Jack manages to jump on the plane and Duke is kind of like pulling up into the air, but they both end up falling out of the plane, and Jack ends up taking a pickup truck and driving the two of them away. So, you know, we learned that Duke lied about his airplane phobias and in fact actually knows how to fly a plane. So after that, they eventually pull up to this town 30 miles away from the ranch that they were at, and Duke, you know, their relationship has been building. And so Duke manages to convince Jack to let him take the lead and give him Mosley's FBI ID and to unlock the handcuffs. So they walk into this bar and they pull a great scam. It's like a nice buddy cop kind of moment where Duke pretends to be an FBI agent. There are like two people working at the bar, like a bartender and a manager. And basically Duke cons the bar staff into giving up their $20 bills. Some bullshit about like the litmus configuration or something or other. It's a good like, you know,
Jack
good
just,
improv.
like,
They yes and each other.
A fake counterfeit test, basically.
He's like rubbing an eraser over it. The litmus configuration. Yeah. It's good shit. And so after that, they manage to buy some groceries and jump onto a freight train. So they're living that classic hobo lifestyle. Which I guess you probably can't say. I don't know what you say instead of hobo. When I say hobo, I'm not talking about like an actual like unhoused person. I'm talking about the classic like cartoon, you know, person with a stick and you know, a few items in their handkerchief.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They get into a fight on the you know what I mean. They get into a fight on the train, but it's night. You know, we kind of cut to nighttime. We get a little more with Marvin and the FBI, but we cut to nighttime. Jack tells the story of his busted watch, which was Gail's first gift to him. You know, another bonding moment between our two leads. Marvin leaves the jail and learns that the FBI went to Flagstaff, so now he's able to kind of follow that lead too. And Duke realizes what we, the viewing audience, realized half an hour ago, which is that Dennis Farina is the drug dealer from Jack's past. You know, he's the mobster that he wouldn't go dirty for. Yeah. So there's some history there.
Can I just say, for me, this is the weakest thing in the film, because I feel like this is revealed as though it's a surprise. But like my reaction in the moment was like, I didn't realize we weren't supposed to know this.
Right.
Like,
even,
it seemed so
even
obvious.
I got it.
Right. I was like, I can't believe that they feel like they need to say this explicitly. Like it's been so obvious for the whole film.
So we get another chase scene on a long empty road, yada, yada, yada. Jack and Duke end up crashing into a very big tree. And the FBI, Marvin, and the local police all managed to close in on the crashed pickup truck, but Jack and Duke somehow managed to slink away and give him the slip. They try to stop, like wave a car down, but it's Marvin. So to your point earlier, callback, Marvin does the door thing again and nails Jack with his car door.
So
and,
good.
Yeah, it is pretty good, honestly, and takes Duke. So, you know, Jack's at his low point. He walks into an empty diner by himself. He's just covered in dirt and soot, and the FBI walks in and takes him in. And meanwhile, Marvin knocks Duke out. So Jack is in the FBI office and he gets a call. And so he calls Joey Pants. It's a great conversation because it's just happening like in the bullpen in the office. And they just get into like a huge yelling match with each other. It's very funny stuff. But he calls Joey Pants and then he calls Tony the mobster. And Jack says, it's like he's setting up this gambit for the finale. Jack says that he has Dennis Farina's electronic records and that he wants to meet Farina in 2 hours at the airport. And he tells Alonzo that he wants to, and after the call, he tells Alonzo that he wants to make a deal and that he has evidence to put Dennis Farina away in exchange for delivering Duke himself for the $100,000. Am I right with that?
Yeah, I mean, there was something about the way that you said it that I had an issue with. I'm trying to think of exactly what it is. So
usually
I don't think he lies to Alonzo and tells him he has the evidence. I think that what he has that is of value is that he knows this evidence exists, right?
Okay.
Because for Dennis Farina to even try to steal this thing that he thought was the evidence, like there's this whole discussion that he and Alonzo have where he explains all of the like crimes that Dennis Farina would be committing if he tried to take the discs. Like what he has on him is that he knows that he will believe the discs are real. That's the gambit. Like not that he actually has any evidence or anything.
Okay. I'm double checking the summary here on our good friend Wikipedia. So Dennis Farina has Duke, and Jack tells Farina that he lies and says he has the discs with the information that could convict Farina, and he wants to exchange them for Duke. And then he makes the deal with Mosley to deliver Dennis Farina for being able to deliver whatever, the fucking Duke thing. Okay, we get it. We're setting up the finale here. So
it's going great.
You know, whatever. I mean, like, we're getting to the big finale. I don't think there's much more to say. So essentially, like, all the parties are going to converge, right? Marvin has Duke there, and he's going to deliver Duke to the mobsters. But he tries negotiating for more money because he's a dumbass, and he gets beat the fuck up. So he had a Polaroid that he took of Duke, like, handcuffed in the bathroom that he showed to the mobsters to prove that he was still alive. And it's incredible. Like the mobsters beat the shit out of Marvin. And one of the mobsters is like, why did we just do that? He's the only one who knows where Duke is. And in the Polaroid, the name of the motel is embroidered into the towels. Yeah. So ridiculous. Very classy, I guess. I probably would remove those towels if I took a picture like that. But the mob knows where Duke is, so they're just going to get him himself and save themselves, $1 million. So basically, we're at the final setup now. It's all coming together, the big grand finale. Farina wants to get the discs from Walsh, and then he wants to kill Jack and Duke. Okay, so he meets Duke in a limo. Farina says he's going to kill Duke and his wife tonight.
Can I take this moment to comment on something else too that I
you
thought
sure
of
can.
earlier, but I was waiting for the right moment. I didn't really think about this while I was watching it, but this movie does have a lot of like it invites a lot of comparisons with the gang that couldn't shoot straight, right? And another thing that I think like makes this like one of the really good movies we've watched and makes the gang that couldn't shoot straight one of the really bad movies that we've watched is that like much in the way that like the gang that couldn't shoot straight is like a stupid slapstick comedy and that neuters any like gravitas that any character could have. In spite of the fact that this is a goofy slapstick comedy, the mobsters are still scary, right? Like Dennis Farina's character seems like a violent psychopath. He doesn't seem like a goofy
Yes.
idiot whose threats you like wouldn't believe. And so like, even though he's a comedic character to a certain extent, when he says this to Duke, you believe him and you're like, oh, this is a really bad guy. And so there are like multiple levels on which this film is working emotionally instead of just like goofy comedy. It's like, that's another thing that I really appreciate about it, is that the mobsters seem scary and bad.
It's very funny that you keep making these comparisons to the gang that couldn't shoot straight, because that movie has completely left my mind. It exited
That's one of my
stage
favorite
right.
episodes.
It was a good episode.
I don't
It was
remember
just
the movie. I
There's
remember the episode.
Yeah. No. It was a fun episode. So it's all happening. Dennis Farina, he's talking to Jack on the sidewalk, and he taunts Jack about his ex-wife and their personal history. Marvin walks up with a duffel bag, and then things go sideways. Everything goes to shit. There's like a huge confrontation where Farina gets what he thinks are the discs. The FBI moves in and arrests everyone, and they end up getting the discs. And I have nothing else to say about this scene, so I'm going to just move into the finale, the final scene, if that's okay with you.
It's all good with me. Yep.
Jack and Duke fly into LA together. Jack calls Eddie. His name was Eddie, Joey Pants. That's where I finally learned the character's name. But then at the last minute,
that happens.
Jack, with his heart of gold, decides to let Duke go. And Duke reveals that he had hidden some money on his person, $300,000, which I did the math. $300K in 1988 is roughly $800,000 in today's money. He just had that hidden the entire time.
$1,000 bills, which is
$1,000
cool. We don't have
bills
those anymore.
Yeah. We get a very kind of wistful moment where, the characters, they reach that mutual understanding. Jack takes the money, he walks away, and he looks back, but Duke is already gone. And then the final shot of the film is... he gives him, that's right, the watch, thank you. And then Jack tries to hail a cab, but he can't because they don't want to accept $1,000 bills because that sounds like bullshit, and says, I guess I'm going to have to walk. And the film ends. That's Midnight Run, baby. Certified hood classic. Mike.
The other thing I just want to say that
sure.
It's
get it in while you
referenced
can.
in this moment is that, something that I'll talk about when I talk about my feelings about this movie are like something that I really
what I was
like.
About to ask you.
Yeah. Something that I really like is competence porn. And I really like competence porn because a theme that I really enjoy in storytelling is just the intoxicating joy of being really good at something, right? And there are multiple times in the film where Jack talks about, wanting to feel like a cop again, right? And so in this final moment, he asks somebody for what the time is when he's out about to hail the cab, and it's 25 to midnight or something. And he says to himself I would have made it. So in the end, all he really cares about is knowing he could have delivered him. And so we get this final character beat for Jack where it's he didn't actually need to do the job. He just needed to know he could do it. And I love that. I think it's an excellent closing thought for the character.
Agreed. Hey, Mike, what'd you think of this film? What's your rating?
I love this film. This film is transcendent. It's a pretty easy 5-star for me. I love everything about it. This is why I watch movies. And we're doing a Robert De Niro podcast. This is an incredible Robert De Niro performance. It may be the best we've seen so far. Certainly one of the best, 2 or 3 that we've seen so far. He's incredibly emotionally compelling. He's physical in his movements. He's incredibly funny. He's really charming and charismatic. This is a pinnacle of Robert De Niro's filmography in terms of the way he performs here. I love the score. I love the cinematography. I love the themes. I love the chemistry between De Niro and Grodin. I love everything about this movie. I think it's incredible. And I could not possibly recommend it any more highly.
Hot damn. A 5-star.
First, and I'm sure one of only a few based on the fact that we're a quarter of the way done through this. And this is the only one I've ever given. So,
yeah. I mean, we've given so few 4s,
Yep.
This is a whole other tier. I mostly agree with you. Numerically, rating wise, I really enjoyed the film. I had a wonderful time watching it. I can absolutely see why it stood the test of time. And it's hard for me to think of anything that I would change about it, which is a hallmark of a 5-star film, right?
Yep.
I think the only thing that kind of got to me was the Danny Elfman score. I thought was a little much. It was a little much. And so you're absolutely right. The dynamic between the leads was great. All of the supporting characters were great. I loved there were no weak points, right? I enjoyed checking in with Dennis Farina and Joey Pants and, Agent Mosley. They were all of their plots were great. All the moments with them. was superbly acted. You're right. Fantastic, phenomenal Robert De Niro performance. I loved the character so much. He gets to do action. He gets to be smart and crafty, but he's also so fucking funny. And him and Grodin have such great chemistry, such a good dynamic. It works really beautifully. So I think, I don't know. It's like, is it a 4.5 or a 5 for me? But it's funny because I might have to go 5 because as we were talking about it, it's one of those films, this happens so often, where it's like when we do the recap, I go into a film with like a number in mind, but when we're talking about it, it just tilts the number up or down. And obviously it's happened in the opposite direction a lot more often, where it's like, oh yeah, this movie wasn't just bad, it was really, really bad. But with Midnight Run was just an absolute blast. And God, fuck it. I'm going to give it 5 stars.
Oh, hell yeah, baby. Let's go.
Double Jeopardy. Really great film. Phenomenal stuff.
You should play an air horn right there.
Yeah, probably do the Double Jeopardy noise.
Yeah, I realized after I said it that that's like a much better idea.
Hey, Mike, is there a film that you would like to recommend in addition to Midnight Run?
Definitely. And I struggled a lot with this one, not because I couldn't think of something, but because I'm really torn between two. So I'm going to share what mine is, and then I'm going to share what the one that really almost pulled on me was, because they're definitely both worth watching, and I know you'll agree on both counts. So my recommendation, and the reason why I'm making this recommendation is because Yaphet Kotto is one of the stars of this film, is the 1978 directorial debut of Paul Schrader, Blue Collar. Blue Collar is it's definitely one of the better Paul Schrader films. So I don't know if listeners of this podcast will be Schrader heads, but Mike and I are both enormous Paul Schrader heads.
Love Paul Schrader. What a guy. What a character.
Easily one of my very favorite directors. And what's fascinating about Paul Schrader as a director is that very few things that he's done I love, but the things that he's done that I love are transcendent for me. So the two things that he's done that I love that I find transcendent are, like, spoiler alert for the podcast, right? When we watch Taxi Driver, I'm going to give it 5 stars. Like, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. That's a 5-star film. And that was directed by Martin Scorsese, but it was written by Paul Schrader. And so that's one Paul Schrader thing. And then the other thing is a Mike Back at You recommendation to me from a few years ago.
Yeah.
One of the 10 best films I think that I have ever seen in my life. Like, it truly stands the test of time. Every time I think about it, I like it more. First Reformed. Mid-teens, kind of very reflective, kind of man in a room sort of drama character study, and it's just it is likewise transcendent, just an absolutely incredible film. Blue Collar is great. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's one of the better Paul Schrader films. It's not transcendent, but it has Yaphet Kotto in it, but it also shares a lot, I think, both in its aesthetic as well as in its themes with Midnight Run. So Blue Collar is a story about these three union workers who work in some kind of manufacturing facility who are just constantly put upon and being abused by their employer. And so to get out from under this unjust situation they're in, their act of rebellion, unlike Jack's, whose act of rebellion was this movie, their act of rebellion is to try to rob a safe at the Union HQ that has a lot of money in it. And it is an extremely dirty, gritty, very practically shot film from the late 70s, and it's just really cool. It's really nice. It's a great Paul Schrader film, and I would strongly recommend it. My second recommendation, I went more of a Dennis Farina direction here, could have been the 1986 Michael Mann film Manhunter, which I know that you and I have very different takes on.
I need to rewatch it. I was a little lukewarm, but I need to rewatch it.
Yep, it's a 3.5 for Mike Back at You, and you don't need to say anything about Manhunter, right? I mean, it is a film retelling of Red Dragon by Thomas. What's the guy's name who wrote the Hannibal Lecter books? Thomas something. I can't think of his name, but whatever. You can look it up. He's a very famous writer. It's an adaptation of that first Hannibal Lecter book. I think it is the best adaptation of that first Hannibal Lecter book. It's pretty close with season 3 of Hannibal, I guess. Like they could kind of vie for the front of the pack for me in my mind. It's significantly better than Red Dragon, the film, which is not very good. But in that film, Dennis Farina plays Jack Crawford. It's not my favorite Jack Crawford performance. The Jack Crawford who has my heart will always be Lawrence Fishburne from Hannibal. I think that he's just like has such an incredible gravitas in that role. It's such an amazing performance. But Dennis Farina is definitely my number 2. He's awesome in the role, and I would likewise strongly recommend Manhunter as a secondary in addition to recommendation.
Great recommendations. All right, my recommendation, I'm going to keep it so short and sweet. I've already mentioned it a couple of times. Beverly Hills Cop is my recommendation. It's a film that I think everyone except for Mike the Fab has seen already. Even I've seen it.
I'm the only one.
It's so similar to Midnight Run tonally. It was directed by Martin Brest 4 years prior to Midnight Run, but it was a huge star-making turn for Eddie Murphy, who plays Axel Foley, this streetwise Detroit cop who goes to Beverly Hills to solve the murder of his best friend. And it's such a blast. I only gave it 4 stars in Letterboxd. Might be a 4.5 on rewatch, but it hits the same tone as Midnight Run. It's such a blast. Eddie Murphy is that same sort of character like Jack Walsh, just a very fast, he's more fast talking, but he's just a very fast talking, streetwise, crafty kind of cop who's just always one step ahead of everyone. And there's a great ensemble cast with Judge Reinhold and John Ashton as 2 local Beverly Hills cops. It's just a ton of fun from start to finish. And I highly recommend it in the same vein as Midnight Run. So if you're kind of feeling that itch, go out there and watch the first Beverly Hills Cop.
Great recommendation. I will.
Yeah,
certainly
I think you'll enjoy it.
after
like
watching this.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So now it's time to get into the role. As previously stated at the beginning of the episode, we are going to do our 30th episode mailbag next week. So we're rolling for 2 weeks from now. Mike, are you ready to roll?
I am ready. What are you hoping for this week?
Give me Silver Linings Playbook, because we've said it,
you and me both,
and it hasn't happened yet. Let's do it. If we both think really hard.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. All right, here we go. I'm going to roll. Well, it certainly isn't going to be Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh, boy.
We have rolled 25, which is...
Oh, wow.
Oh, we've already rolled it, unfortunately.
Reroll.
Yep.
It was the Untouchables.
We'll roll again. We have rolled 63, which is... Oh, God. Which is the 2004 film Shark Tale.
Well, this is an exciting film because friend of the pod, Zoe, she recently wrote in with just sending us a fucking quote from the film that I refused to read on air back during our 20th episode spectacular. So this one's for her and Peyton, who doesn't listen to the podcast, by the way, but said she would listen to our Shark Tale. Oh, listen, I know, man. I know.
What's
Mike's shaking his head in disbelief. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. What could be more important than listening to a podcast?
It's 60 to 90 minutes once a week. Put it on in the background while you, make your, ramen noodles or whatever it is that you eat while you're in grad school.
Exactly. Right.
Yep.
Live a little. Listen to 2 men in their 30s talk about Robert De Niro films.
Yep.
For an hour and a half a pop. That's really exciting, though. You get to recap Shark Tale.
I don't really know anything about it, honestly.
I saw it when it came out.
The other thing about
back in 2004.
That makes me excited to watch it is I assume it's quite short. Yeah, it's only an hour and 40 minutes long.
Beautiful. All right, so we'll be back next week with our mailbag episode and then Shark Tale the following week. Be sure to follow Mike and I on Letterboxd. I'm Mike back at you, and he's Mike the Fab. Email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. Rate us in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. 5 stars would be great. I know you haven't done it yet, so please get out there and do it. Hey, Caroline, thank you for creating our wonderful podcast artwork. And thank you, Mike, for being my co-host. And thank me for editing the podcast. And we will see you next week with another wonderful episode of Our Hero De Niro.
Our 30th episode. Spectacular.
That's right.